Hi! Today's video is something that I should have done ages ago. I went to see Come From Away, God, a few months ago now. I went to stay with my friend Rachel. I think I've already talked about it in other videos before. My friend Rachel lives in London, so I went to stay with her for a weekend and we went to see 3 different shows in a weekend, which was amazing. We saw Waitress, Come From Away and Amelia, the play. They were all incredible. My Waitress and Amelia reviews are both on my blog, so I'll link those in the description. But with Come From Away, it was one of those shows where I was anticipating it so much because I've listened to the soundtrack so many times. It was one of those albums that I just had on repeat. Even though I hadn't seen the show, I was just so excited to see it because I loved the music. And every time I sat down to try and write a review of it, I just couldn't. Like, everything was just coming out as, oh my god, I love it so much. Like, I couldn't actually write a proper review trying to get my points down in a blog post, and that's the exact reason that I decided to make a YouTube channel for things like this, where I struggle to write them in words. I can just flail about them in a video instead. So I have my notes on my iPad, and I thought I would just really quickly give a quick review of Come From Away in the West End. You know when you see a show and you come away from it and you just know that it's one of your favourite shows ever. Like, you just know that it's shot straight to the top of your list of your favourite shows of all time. This was one of those shows, hence why I bought the t-shirt. So if you don't know much about Come From Away, it's basically a 1-act musical. It's about 75 minutes, I think, and it tells the story of a load of people during 9/11 when the US airspace was closed around New York. Loads of planes were diverted to all different places. So planes that were due to land in and around the area of the Twin Towers. All the airspace was completely closed, so planes had to be diverted all over the place. And I think it was, there's a whole song about it in the show with how many planes it was. Something like 30, I think it was 38 planes.
38 planes! We got 200-300 people on the average!
Landed in Gander in Newfoundland in Canada. It kind of shook the entire town because this town is so small and the population basically tripled overnight. So this whole musical is about how the people of Gander kind of took in all of these thousands of people and basically made them feel at home for a weekend. And I feel like in a time now where there's so many issues with, you know, in the US with the people, with kids in camps, and it's ridiculous, like the world is turning into a dystopia. And there's loads of stories with refugees, and Come From Away seems to be kind of gaining so much popularity in a time where a show like this is really needed. It kind of just shows that you don't have to turn away people that aren't your own. Like the people of Gander took in all of these people and they just made them part of their own community, and it's just such a story that is needed now. So I have seen some people saying that they wish it was longer, like they wish the show didn't all happen within like 1 act. I really like that. I think it's so different. Most shows obviously have an interval in the middle and they're 2 acts. But Come From Away happens all over 1 act, and I think it just kind of, it wouldn't work splitting it into 2, because the thing is, it's such a fast-paced show. There is not a second to breathe. There's hardly a second of silence. There's stuff going on constantly because it all happened over something like 3 or 4 days. Thousands of people all kind of coming into this town. It's not going to be quiet and relaxed. It was manic. And the kind of fast-paced 1 act kind of structure of the show just kind of reflects how manic and non-stop the actual event was. One thing I love about the group of people that they decided to focus the story on, because Come From Away is a true story, and all of the characters in the show are based on real people, like real accounts and stories that they read of people who actually were in Gander during this time. The group of people they decided to focus on in particular are so diverse, and I just love it. It adds so much to the show when all of the cast and the characters are just so diverse. You've got like young and old people, you've got couples, parents, you've got people who are like gay or straight, you've got people of all different nationalities, and there's one song in particular where loads of different people all come in and sing the same song in their own language, and it's amazing. It's one of those songs that just like gives you chills, because all of these different people are coming in and singing this song all in their own language. And there's a whole bit in the show where a fight breaks out with people not being comfortable that there's Muslims among them. It reflects so many kind of real world issues that would have been a thing. They would have been important then, and it's just because it's a musical, it doesn't kind of sugarcoat all of the darker themes and the kind of racism that would have happened. And yeah, just seeing that song where they all come together and sing the same song all in their own languages, it just kind of like that sense of community that happened in Gander. That song, I think in particular, just kind of cements that.
Shalom Aleinu ve'al Yisrael, Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al Yisrael. Oh, Master, grant that I may never say Shalom, so much to become, so as to console, to be understood as to understand.
So as I said, there's kind of a big mixture of like happy and sad and tense moments. There's like, you feel so many emotions within less than 2 hours. You kind of just go through this whole whirlwind of emotions with so many things happening. And one thing that I love that I haven't seen done very often in shows before is every time a song finishes, it gets interrupted before the song ends, so people can't applaud. And that means then that when there is such a big moment when a song finishes and it's like a massive kind of climax of this song, and it's a really tense or like a really happy or whatever moment, and they pause so the audience can finally applaud, and they haven't applauded throughout the whole show, it makes that applause feel so much more special and like poignant. It's hard to explain what I mean, but when there's a show and the audience applaud and cheer and whatever after every single song in the show, once there's a more special moment when a song ends, it kind of doesn't, it just feels like another song. But with this, with certain, especially when you get to the end of the show and this whole thing has just been so fast paced, and you get to the end of the show and then everyone can applaud, it just kind of makes the whole theatre go insane. Like, it just makes everyone go crazy, and the energy in there is just amazing. So another thing that I kind of really appreciated about this show is the music seems so unique. Like, it's kind of like a folk pop sound. I haven't heard anything like it in any other shows before. The only other show that I can think of that kind of has a similar, maybe not a similar sound, but it just reminded me of it for some reason, is The Great Comet of 1812. It's that kind of folk music that it's not traditional like musical theatre music.
Farewell to all you pretty ladies waving from the dock. Heave away, me jollies, heave away. And if we do return to you, we'll make your cradles rock. Heave away, me jolly boys, we're all bound away.
Farewell to Newfoundland, the boys, you're leaving us alone. Heave away, me jollies, heave away. And if you find another, we got lovers of our own.
Heave away, me jolly boys, we're all bound away.
I think that's why I love the cast recording so much, because so many cast recordings I listen to and I'm like, yeah, they're alright, but they've got so many elements that are just so kind of traditional musical theatre, that they all start to kind of blend into each other. But Come From Away is so unique. Like the sound and the music is just so unique. The way that they blend all the songs in together, especially when you listen to the album, it all kind of blends into one big cohesive, almost like one long song. And that's what it felt like on stage as well. Just almost like one big song just broken up with bits of dialogue. So now for the staging. The staging is one thing I always love to look at. It's one of those things that for me kind of makes the show. Like, if the staging is really cool and interesting, or if the sets are really intricate, it's one thing that I find myself always focusing my attention on. With Come From Away, it didn't really have like intricate sets. Like, they didn't create sets for each of the different places. The whole thing was just done on a rotating stage, and they used chairs for everything. So chairs were used for the seats on the aeroplane, and then they're used as a pier, and they're just used for so many different things. And loads of the routines involve them kind of using the chairs and picking them up and moving them. And then some parts they're doing that with the chairs while the stage is rotating. So even though it's a really simple stage, the way that they've used it, it's just so, I just love it. It reminds me of A Monster Calls. It was the play, like the stage adaptation of the Patrick Ness book. I saw that in London last year, year before, I can't remember, last year I think. And that's similar, where they just kind of use stools and ropes and things to create all of the sets, and like they use ropes to create a giant tree. This was similar, where they use just chairs to create so many different scenes, and it's just so cool. Like, it's so fascinating to watch how they choreograph all of these different scenes just using chairs, and they're walking over the top of them, and they become an aeroplane and then a bar and then a hill, and it's just crazy the amount of stuff that you can do just with a load of chairs, and they do it so well. So I think that's all I have to say. I love it so much. I don't have a single negative thing to say about this show. So the music is great, the set is great, the actors and the cast and the diversity, and just everything. Oh, another thing as well, the band are such a big part of this show. So the band actually come out at the end and do a big kind of performance at the end. It almost feels like you're watching some sort of folk concert, because the band come out and they've got their own time to have the attention on them, and I love that. Seeing the musicians, I feel like, is a really cool thing to do, because they're often kind of forgotten. So yeah, that was really cool. So if you get a chance at all to go and see Come From Away, whether it's on Broadway or in the West End, or I don't know if it's anywhere else at the moment, but I would definitely recommend it. If you can get to London or New York, definitely go and see it, because it's so good. I don't think I've seen anyone complaining about it. I don't think I've seen a single negative review about this show, which doesn't happen very often. There's always people who are going to be negative, but I haven't seen anything negative about it. Everyone seems to adore it. It's won about 1 billion awards, and yeah, if you can't get to see the show, because I know it can be expensive, at least listen to the cast recording. It's on Spotify, iTunes, it's everywhere. Listen to that, because it pretty much gives you a good overview of the entire show. There's not a great deal of dialogue, so the music basically tells the entire story of the show. Let me know in the comments if you've seen it, because I'd love to chat about it with you. I just want to kind of fangirl over it with someone who loved it as much as I did. And I will see you soon with another video. Bye!
When the sun is coming up and the world is come ashore, if you're hoping for a harbor, then you'll find an open door. In the winter, from the water through whatever's in the